I need the first slide. Okay. Good afternoon. It is now 2 p.m. and I want to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors. Your chair for today, Vice President Botelho. Today is Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. And will you please all rise and repeat after me as we pledge our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Let the record reflect President Harrison is not present. For roll call, Director Keelhold.
Here.
Director Velasquez.
Present.
Director Longville.
Here.
And Vice President Mateo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Okay, public comment. Members of the public may address the board regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. However, no action may be taken on off-agenda items except as authorized by law. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Mr. Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any requests to speak. I have not received any, but to the public that's present online and in person, if you wish to provide a public comment, please raise your hand to be recognized.
Okay, hearing none, seeing none, let's move on. Okay, next up is our consent calendar. We have item 2.1 and 2.2, approved minutes of the Board of Directors meeting February 17, 2026, and approved minutes of the Board of Directors meeting March 3rd, 2026. Do we have any edits, any questions about the consent calendar? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Well, second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Mr. Clerk?
Director Velasquez.
Yes.
Director Longville.
Yes.
Director Keelhold.
Yes.
And Vice President Mateo.
Yes.
The consent calendar is approved.
Thank you, sir. Okay, discussion and possible action items. Discussion item 3.1 is going to be brought to us today by our Chief of Planning and Watershed Resilience, Mr. Greg Woodside. It's an update on the Inland Empire Headwaters Resiliency Partnership. Excuse me. Hi, Greg.
Thank you, Vice President Mateo and members of the board. Welcome. I'll say welcome to everyone, but I'm super happy to be here. This is my first time I presented on the Headwaters Resiliency Partnership. Of course, Chris Jones was very active from staff getting this started. We're hoping to snag Mr. Jones back in with his job up there at Running Springs Water District. We're working on that. He, of course, brings a great background for this activity. So the Headwaters Resiliency Partnership, the last time this was brought to the board was in September of last year. That was to have the board consider approval of the charter, which was completed last year. So the Headwaters Resiliency Partnership, just by way of reminder, it's a collaborative alliance of agencies, nonprofits, and community organizations, quite a diverse group. And our purpose is to work across boundaries, to collaborate and leverage what we do collectively. We want to amplify what each of our agencies can do by drawing on the various strengths and weak strengths of each particular partner. It's focused on watershed and forest health, wildfire resistance, and equitable community protection in the Inland Empire. And we do work as a forum. We work collaboratively to share our experiences and develop long-term plans for stewardship. So the HRP itself does not approve a project. It does not fund a project, but it works to bring together the partners to move projects forward and other collective actions. So the charter, of course, was approved. I'll have a slide in a minute that will show which entities have approved it. So the key components of the charter to explain our mission and the why we do things and the how, the strategic priorities, the membership. And in terms of membership, there's active members and then there's affiliate members. So we are an active member. The governance and decision-making, it talks about how it works by consensus-based decision-making and how that is implemented. Roles and responsibilities, much of the work of the HRP is done through work teams. So the staff here are participating on different work teams. And the HRP also has a coordinator and a facilitator. For operations and planning, it then talks about how we turn these priorities into action. So we are currently developing a work plan that would be for the next year. So these are the partners who have signed the charter. Go through them real quickly. The Inland Empire Fire Safe Alliance, the Fire Safe Council, the National Forest Foundation, Inland Empire Community Foundation, CAL FIRE, Tree People, the Southern California Mountains Foundation, the Institute for Watershed Resiliency at Cal State San Bernardino, and the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District. In terms of the Forest Service is not able to directly sign or approve this kind of document, but we're working with them to have an MOU between some of the partner agencies and the Forest Service that would indicate the manner in which they can participate. So that's something we're actively working on. So I'm going to highlight a couple of different activities that the HRP has been working on. The first one I'll highlight is a monitoring and headwaters resilience workshop. This is an activity that started last fall, and we're continuing to finish it up and wrap it up. It's started in the fall with a data collection effort, and then we had an in-person workshop here October 1st. This brought together a number of partners to both look at monitoring of the watershed and also to start to develop a framework for resilience. So we had 34 participants from multiple organizations here. We worked in breakout groups to identify data gaps, identify monitoring priorities, and also what are the challenges with the data collection programs, and also as we work to develop a resilience framework. So this was supported with funding from the Lincoln Institute for Land Policy. That's a group that Mary Ann Dickinson's involved with. So that provided funding. And primarily that funding went to three groups. It went to the Cal State Northridge for the geospatial center there. They did the data collection, the data analysis, and they're preparing a story map that will describe the whole process. That should be available later this spring. And we also had the funding from the Lincoln Institute went to two of our local professors, Dr. Jennifer Alford from Cal State San Bernardino and Dr. Hillary Jenkins from the University of Redlands. So they both participated in the workshop and the follow-up activities which are still going on. And some of the products you're going to see, we have some working draft products that I'll share to you. They're still being finalized, but much of this is work that was done by Dr. Hillary Jenkins from Redlands and Dr. Jennifer Alford from Cal State. So the framework that's developed for identifying data gaps, this has mostly been completed. So we had an activity to compile data. So a survey went out to everyone we can think of that might be collecting data. They submitted their data. Cal State Northridge compiled all that. Those data were then analyzed. And this was done kind of in different steps. We did it in the workshop on October 1st. And then because that was during the federal government shutdown, we had a later separate activity with the federal partners because the federal partners couldn't participate on October 1st. So we had early this year, we had another meeting, separate meeting with them to get their input. So the data has been analyzed. We're currently preparing a technical memorandum to summarize the data collection efforts that are ongoing, and just think about how lots of different people and entities are collecting data. We captured as much as we were aware of and organize that, and then identify the data gaps. So that tech memo to document this is being prepared right now. So in terms of a monitoring and resilience framework, Hillary Jenkins from University of Redlands did a lot of work on this together with Dr. Alford. It's based on other examples from California. So the Sierra Nevada area has had an initial effort on this that we learned a lot from and have following some of their examples. It's based on, first of all, identifying different pillars. So a pillar would be, what's the long-term outcome you want at a large scale, a landscape scale. So example, water security is a long-term outcome that we seek. So under those pillars, and you'll see the different pillars in the upcoming slide, under each of those pillars, there's different elements. So that's the primary ecosystem service that helps support that pillar. So for water security, one of the elements is water quality. And then drilling down deeper, there's different metrics. So a metric would be an example of what you measure to assess that element. So in this case, to assess water quality, an example is you measure dissolved oxygen. So these are the range of pillars that were reviewed and discussed. So have water security, fire dynamics, forest resilience, biodiversity, economic diversity, wetlands integrity, fire adapted communities, air quality, carbon sequestration, and social and cultural well-being. The color coding is somewhat to group them, but I realize, of course, these are all interconnected. But you see the three red ones, fire dynamics, fire adapted communities, air quality. Those are obviously very associated in terms of fire. But of course, those all relate back, of course, to forest resilience, though everything's connected here, but these are some groupings. So you might wonder, why is air quality on here? So there's two primarily reasons air quality is on here, is that air quality affects the forest. The trees in the forest are affected by, in particular, ozone, but there's other characteristics of urbanized areas' air quality that does degrade forest health, and that is a consideration in our area. So this is distilling them down. We're still working through if this is the final list, but this is our current target list for the pillars we're focusing on. So we grouped them some. So again, this is really a working draft. We're not final on this yet, but we've identified together water security and wetland integrity. So the elements there would be water quantity and water quality. Fire dynamics, the particular element there is the severity of fire. Forest resilience and biodiversity, that includes forest structure and composition, biodiversity and the degree of disturbance, and then air quality. And elements there would be particulate matter, photochemical smog, what smog is created by reactions in the atmosphere, and then visibility, how air quality affects visibility. And just one more note on air quality. The other tie-in with air quality to the pillar is that the types of controlled burns that are a benefit to the forest, those can have considerations of air quality impacts as you do a controlled burn. So that's the other reason that air quality is on our list as a pillar here also, the potential effects of controlled burns on air quality. There is, switching gears now, there is a citizen science effort to this, or citizen science aspect to this. So the two professors had developed two training models, training modules. So these would be used either by citizen scientists, or they would also be used with school groups. And so this is a part of the work funded by the Land Institute, Lincoln Land Institute, is to develop these teaching modules. And these are essentially done. They'll be available for public use or a number of interest groups that would be interested in this. So there's one for surface water monitoring. So the purpose of this is to instruct someone who's interested what's involved in going out and collecting water quality samples in the field. They're very practical. And then similarly for groundwater monitoring, what's involved in going out and monitoring groundwater, in particular, in this case, groundwater elevations. So big picture, the takeaways from the workshop and the work that's gone on since then. First of all, that the data gaps have been identified that are limiting planning. So they're limiting our ability to analyze and plan projects, certain data gaps that have been identified. There's a need for coordinated basin-wide monitoring. So, thinking about all the different groups that are collecting data, traditionally each group has had their own database, but we want to work on a coordinated program and then have a integrated database. And then some of the key challenges for both the monitoring capacity and the framework for resilience is funding, and particularly funding for monitoring is often a problem. Sometimes monitoring is just funded for a particular short-term need, but there's not ongoing long-term monitoring. The capacity, meaning like the staff capacity or the capacity to go collect the data, and the coordination, so to make sure we're not, collecting duplicate data, for example. I'm going to switch gears here now to a couple projects that the HRP is looking at.
Excuse me, Greg.
But
Before you move on, do you mind if I stop you there? And I'm to see if Wynn has anything to add to what we already heard.
Yes, thank you, Chair Pateo and members of the board. Good afternoon. So the update was brought to you at the request of Director Lonville some weeks ago. As you know that this region rely on 3/4 of our water supply locally, whether it's from surface water or local groundwater aquifers. And obviously the health of the headwaters is very important to our water supply portfolio. And through the partnership with the agencies that Greg identified, we are making really good progress. And obviously we got a lot of work ahead of us, and we'll just continue to work on that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Win. Okay, thank you, Greg. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to pause here. If there's any questions on this part, we can ask those now or come back to those later. I'm going to switch gears to some other projects that the partners are moving forward. So this first one is the North Big Bear Landscape Restoration Project. So this includes one of the partners is the National Forest Foundation, which has not signed the charter, but is very active. And then Blue Forest is also involved with this project. So this is, as the name indicates, on the north side of Big Bear, so north of the lake. The whole area is 13,000 acres. It won't touch every single acre, but that's the area that it's within. So it includes hazardous fuels removal, thinning of vegetation, prescribed fire, restoration activities, decommissioning unauthorized roads, and then trail and road maintenance. So this project, of course, has to be approved by the Forest Service. So the Forest Service approval, because it's on their lands primarily, the Forest Service has done their approvals. The project's underway. You notice the project cost $35 million. The funding secured so far is a portion of that. So they're still working to collect funding. It's been funded at $3.9 million. So this project would have a number of benefits. By removing vegetation in areas where the forest is overgrown, it will conserve water. So it's estimated to conserve, in round numbers, 16,000 acre feet of water over the next 10 years. It also reduces the transport of sediment by reducing the risk of extreme wildfire. So it's estimated to have a 26% reduction in sedimentation and erosion. And then a wildfire reduction risk. So this is based on analysis that by doing this vegetation management, it would reduce by 77% the acres that would burn at high intensity, and also have an 85% reduction in fire spread speed across the landscape. And so that's a benefit both to this area and other parts of the watershed. When you reduce the risk of a fire in this watershed, it provides benefits to the downstream portions area also. One other project I'll note, it's two previous historic fires, the Apple Fire and the El Dorado Fire. So the El Dorado Fire, that was 2020. Apple Fire shown here was on the eastern side of our area. So because these fires are right next to each other, the restoration is being planned together. A significant partner here is the organization Tree People, and they have other partners also. So this covers 1,600 acres in those two fire scars. So it's fuels reduction, reforestation, invasive species management, and that includes both some hand thinning and also mechanical thinning. And you might ask, well, why is there fuel reduction in a burn scar area? Well, part of that is there's some like dead trees or trees that were in the fire scar that burned some or were harmed, but then died. So there was presence of those dead trees. Some of those are thinned. And then the fuels reduction is also part of the invasive species management, because the invasive species grow back very quickly. And some of those would be, by removing those, there's a fuels reduction benefit. So this planning for this project is essentially done, and it will begin in 2026. This is similar in that they have a portion of the funding, but not all of it. The total cost is $10 million, and their funding secured is $4 million. I have one more comment before last slide. So just one more comment. We have been discussing internally and with some of our partners of looking into a field trip that would include the board. So we have some logistical things we need to work out. So we're analyzing internally an opportunity or possibility of a field trip it would be this summer for the board, or perhaps we have to do more than one field trip to get everyone up there. But that is something that we're working on so that the board can go up and see some of these areas and then meet with some of the partners also. That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions.
Great, thank you. Board, this is the receive and file, but I want to open it up for comments.
Thank you, Greg. I really, I appreciated your summary of what's happened. I've been the board representative on this committee. I was, I think, instrumental in us moving forward with developing this plan. Since Chris left, I have had, no information whatsoever, which was why I requested it in a future board meeting. One thing I would like to get an assurance from you today is that you will regularly brief board members who are representatives.
Yes.
Okay, at least quarterly. I don't think it's necessary to bring it back to the board all the time at that point, but it's an area of importance for me. And the fact that we have played a role in bringing almost $8 million into projects and need 10 times more projects is really important. So I hope this has been instrumental. This has been informational, information that other board members appreciated. But it is an area of focus for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Through the
you.
chair,
Yes,
I have just a couple questions. Not on the presentation itself. It was a wonderful presentation, and I think it's a great effort to get everyone together. It's not easy because you're trying to fit all these square pegs into a round hole, but you've made great progress, and I appreciate it. I just had a couple questions regarding the National Forest Service. Do you know about what proportion of the Santa Ana River watershed is national forest land?
I do not know that number, but we can find out.
There you go.
Yep.
I didn't think I would have been surprised if you knew that number. And the other question I had was, does the National Forest Foundation have the same prohibition in signing the charter that the Forest Service itself has?
The National Forest Foundation is a nonprofit. I think they had some other reasons, maybe. I'm not sure the exact reasons, but they're not.
It could just be to maintain consistency too. Yeah.
Yeah, and because they're nationwide, that puts them kind of in a different category. The other partners are
Local.
or state.
Okay.
So I think that's part of it. Is
Thank you.
they're truly all over
Yeah.
all over the country.
thank you, Director Gilholt.
That's it.
Anything else? Okay, I do have some comments, and I want to thank you. Thank you, Director Longville, for bringing this to the board. So Greg, can you go back to Dr. Alpert's and CSUN's and there? Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So has any of this work been published to your knowledge at a conference? Okay, good. So we just, I don't know if it's appropriate, but something to kind of put on your radar.
Yeah, this is a working draft. So
Okay. No, so what I'm saying is in terms of Dr. Alford's and the professor from Redlands,
Mhm.
maybe, and CSUN, when their work is ready for publishing, maybe we could have them at our symposium. Maybe
Yes.
if that's appropriate, I don't know,
That's
but it's
very
just,
appropriate.
it's just a thought.
yes,
The other thing is, I met the tree people at Louis Rubidoux, and I really enjoyed my conversation with them. And I don't know if you caught somewhere I read that the city of San Bernardino has received some type of award as being the shadiest city in the nation, or having an urban canopy. I don't know what that means or how we unpack that, but it would be great to bring the tree people to a workshop where the resources are policy. I enjoy their mission, their energy. And I'm glad to see that they are a member of what we're doing. And also Dee, from the Forest Service.
Yes.
She routinely comes to SAPA meetings.
Mhm.
She's part of the strategic planning process. And so she just really is number one. I mean, she's there, she participates. And so I'm just happy that you did this presentation. And then finally, sir, I'm glad to see that air quality is one of the metrics, because as we've talked in the past that forever chemicals are in the air and they're showing up not only in urban but suburban places because of the air quality. So thank you for that. So if there's no, again, I just want to thank you for the complete presentation. It's outstanding and look forward to hearing more.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, this is a receive and file. Let's move on if there's no more two reports. Okay, director's reports. Let's start with Director Kilhold and we'll move to Director Longville.
All right. On Wednesday, April 1st, I attended the Beaumont Basin Water Master meeting. Probably the biggest takeaway for us from that meeting is they have a draft of their bylaws under review. Tentatively will take action to revise those bylaws in 2 months' time. And that's my report.
Thanks, sir. Director Velasquez.
All right.
Reported are in my last time sheet. And so in April, which we've only had about a week of, I attended the League of Women Voters Water Committee on the 2nd, and the BTAC meeting yesterday. And that's all.
Great. Thank you, Director Longville. Director Velasquez.
Yes, thank you, Chair. On April 2nd, I attended the workshop, and the 4th, I did attend the City of Colton's Earth Day event. That was a very nice event with the community. I was able to chat with John Echeverria, good colleague of mine. So did that. And then on this yesterday, I attended the BTEC meeting as well.
Great. Thank you, sir. Director Harrison. Sir.
Yes, I'm here, but I do not have my
Okay, we'll get to the later date, sir.
with me. So
Thank you. Okay, that leaves me. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. On the 30th, well, since our last meeting, on the 30th, March 30th, I sat down with Kelly and Dr. Elford to get an update on our fellows program. So I just wanted, in my role as chair of legislative committee, I wanted to meet with her regarding that. On 4/1, there was a webinar. The CCCs have a salmon restoration project. So they did a report back on that. That was very interesting in that they're using some of the same techniques that Kai uses with that whole wooden apparatus. They do similar things. So that was interesting to see. On April 4th, there was a community event, Easter event on the 3rd ward. So I attended that. And also on 4/6, the BTAC meeting, I also attended that. So that's my report. Okay. Next slide. General Counsel report, sir.
No report today, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you very much. Okay, ad hoc and standing committee reports. Hearing none, seeing none, let's move on. Okay, the SAPA meeting report. Okay, today, April 7th, we had our regular SAPA commission meeting, and the commission authorized the general manager to execute the following: General Services Agreement, GSA, with Larry Walker Associates and Task Order 374-01 with Larry Walker Associates for the amount not to exceed $106,737 for the Basin Monitoring Program Task Force Santa Ana River annual report. The commission also approved the proposed scope of work and budget amendment of option 1, $137,980 and included the tribal engagement and community workshop budget option of $17,345. That's an increase for the strategic planning consultants, which I am in full approval. It was unanimous consent today to take a second look at that contract and increase it. The commission received and filed the following information report, the legislative report from West Coast Advisors. And then we moved on to the PA 24 committee. The project agreement 24 committee authorized the general manager to execute the memorandum of understanding MOU with the city of Chino, establishing the terms, conditions, and cost of share for design of the Bryan Line Reach 40 relocation as part of the city of Chino's Euclid Bridge project for an amount not to exceed $234,000. We're going to be sharing a 50% share of this project. So they're going to come back to the PA 24 committee when we get to the other costs that are involved in this project. And then the project agreement 24 committee authorized the general manager to issue requests for proposals, RFPs, for on-call surveying services, meter calibration services, and on-call line draining and emergency services. I requested that staff of SAPA reach out to the 5-member agencies to make certain that we are aware of those RFPs and the possibility of some of our contacts getting involved and submitting proposals for those contracts. That's the SAPA report for today. Next slide. Okay. 4.5, our Chief of Water Resources, Michael Plinsky, is going to give us a state water report, project report rather.
Thank you, Vice President Bateo and members of the board. Have a couple slides today on state water project. There we go. So for the state water project, kind of describing my meeting up in Sacramento in March. And so it's pretty clear that the table A allocation is going to remain at 30% for 2026, unless there's something abnormal that occur, but most likely it's going to stay at 30%. No carryover was lost from San Luis Reservoir. So we did have to surge a little bit into the Bureau of Reclamation portion of the reservoir, but overall no water was lost. Article 21 water did not materialize this year. And then at the local level, what this means for our service area is that we're going to be able to fulfill about 70% of the direct delivery orders we received. And as a reminder, we're going to be meeting with the retail agencies next Monday, April 13th, to have a state water project kind of update meeting, coordination meeting. There is a possibility that we could get a little bit more water. Earlier in the year, Clawa had some surplus water, so I'm going to circle back with them and see what's available. And so that has a chance that maybe we could pick up a couple additional 1,000 acre feet of water. So it's not going to move the needle all that much, but obviously any and all water we can bring into the valley is a good thing. And then lastly, the San Bernardino Valley team is continuing to work with San Gabriel and with DWR on the golden mussel treatment at Devil Canyon. DWR has indicated that they should finish their work plan this week. And so we're going to look forward to seeing that. And from there, they'll start getting into the design, purchasing equipment, and then installation. They were targeting May. Since we're in mid-April and they haven't bought equipment, I would anticipate this to push just a little bit. But hopefully in June, maybe even July, hopefully treatment will be in place. Next slide will clearly indicate why the 30% allocation is going to remain for the remainder of the year. Here is the snowpack survey, a picture from April 1. They monitor 33 different stations and measure those. And on April 1, snowpack was at 8% of average for this time of year. The small figure in the lower right, I know it's hard to read, but you can get the gist of it. The shaded area is typical snowpack over the year, and the black line is where we are this year. And so instead of us being at that peak of snowpack, again, we're sitting at about 8% of average. And so just what happened this year is that we did have a good December. It stayed kind of dry, and then somehow we went right into very, very warm weather. And then we did get a couple additional storms, but everything came as rain. And so it showed up in Oroville sooner than we wanted, and it melted some of that snow along with this warm rain melted the snow as well. So the snowpack just diminished, beneath our feet, literally. And then my last slide for today is, you guys are probably fully aware, probably saw on the news, but 2 weeks ago on March 20th, the draft decision in water rights for the Sites Water project was released. Many of the proposed permit terms matched the site's water rights application. There were some differences, and so we're kind of modeling what those differences mean to the yield of the project and impact of the project. And so more will come on that. I can give you a couple of highlights. One of the requests in our permit was for an annual maximum amount of 1.5 million acre feet to be diverted off the Sacramento River. State Board came back and in the draft permit terms is 980,000 acre feet. So in one way, it's 2/3 of what we asked for. But on the flip side of that, the State Board is recognizing that there's nearly 1 million acre feet of unappropriated water on the Sacramento River and have put that in a draft water right for the Sites project. So that's very exciting. When you look back on water rights, they have not issued a water right in near the 1 million acre foot level since the 60s or 70s. So this is, going on 50 years of a water right of this magnitude. So in many ways, there's a lot to be celebrated, and then there's a few things we're going to kind of have to work through. And so those things that we don't see exactly eye to eye with the State Board on, or think that we had some evidence that wasn't fully considered. There is a period of time between now and May 22nd where comment letters can be submitted. And so the Sites team is feverishly working on that comment letter and putting together, again, additional information that helps support our initial request. And so that will all get submitted by May 22nd, and then there's kind of a timeline from there. It really is going to be at the State Board's discretion, but likely there'll be a kind of a 30-day review. So we're really looking at probably post-summer into the year before a final water right would be issued. And that's if kind of everything goes according to plan. So that's really my update on the Sites project this month. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? No.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a just a comment. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a comment or a question. So I understand because I read an article in the Times, I think a couple of days ago about the monitoring of the snowpack, and I think it's the second time the historic low, right?
Low, yes,
Yeah.
on record.
Okay, so I totally get that, but could you unpack for us, for the board, weren't our reservoirs at historic highs?
Yes, so they were in the early part of the water year, and so we started off with very healthy reserves. Oroville filled quickly, but Oroville kind of has two functions. It's one for water supply, but it also is for flood control purposes. And so they when they see storms coming in, they kind of make room within Oroville. And so there's these curves, there's these figures that they prepare where, storage is going up to kind of the top of the reservoir, but then when flood control comes in, it starts coming down. And when those two lines cross, they actually do releases, kind of forced releases to make room. And those releases are kind of independent of how much of that water can get picked up out of the delta. And so when those are not in alignment, water is lost to the ocean. And so although Oroville was full and we did have some wet rain events, all of that couldn't be held. And so one of the things that really the way the system has been designed and operated is really relying on a snowpack, and that reservoir, really like kind of the reservoir up in the mountains of snowpack that slowly melts through spring. And so we really rely on Oroville and the snowpack to get us through the summer. And so when that snowpack isn't there, Oroville alone isn't enough to get higher allocations. And then on the San Luis Reservoir, a lot of that was carryover from prior years. And so although there was 1 million acre foot in storage, I don't know the exact number, but let's say roughly 800,000 probably had people's names on it. So Metropolitan and Kern and us and others. And so although it looks like a big chunk of water, it's already been allocated to certain agencies. So
Thank you for that, Michael. Yes, Director.
Your report, it was chilling in some ways. I mean, when we can't meet 30% of direct delivery requests, that's tragic. But can you, I obviously, the reports that, one of the strongest El Niños in over a century is now being forecasted by major scientists. That, that obviously is going to have a tremendous impact upon these projects that we're planning as well as the projects that we operate. So you'll keep us briefed on that as that new information is dealt with by the regulatory agencies.
absolutely. And that's a great point you're making too, is it's these type of years where sites would really provide a benefit to our service area, and also Delta conveyance on some of those releases where we couldn't turn on the South Delta pumps. That water could have been conveyed around the Delta. So both of the proposed projects that we're working towards would have helped us in a year like this year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Brad has something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just after that dismal, depressing snow report, I thought I could share some good news.
Sure.
The Eastern Sierras is predicted to have a storm this weekend that will bring approximately at least a foot to the Mammoth area. So maybe some of that will drift over in other areas. It's a rare April storm for us.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Okay. Do we have any future business?
Yes.
Okay, Director Guild.
I would like board to review the emergency reserve policy or in the state fund. So
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a future business item and a second. Mr. Clerk.
Director Killed,
yes.
Director Velasquez,
Yes.
Director Longo,
Yes.
and Vice President Mateo.
Yes.
This item will be added to a future board meeting.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you, Director Guild.
Thanks for that.
Hmm.
I was going to call you, but I forgot.
Next slide. Announcements.
Mr. Vice President and members of the board, as we continue with the month of April, we have all regularly scheduled meetings. I will be sending out a reminder for the special district dinner. And for this month, we did want to highlight that we are excited to report that we're on our final preparations for our 2026 Spring State Water Project Tour. Pending any questions from the board, that's all we have for the month of April.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we do have a closed session today. So Brad, could you take us into close?
Yes. Today we'll be going to closed session for conference with real property negotiators Wen and Leo, and the negotiating parties are Southern California Edison, both price and terms of payment in relation to their administration building.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. We're going to adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Okay, bring us back in, sir? And
Yes, there's no reportable action from today's closed session.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next slide. Okay, there's no other further discussion. We are adjourned. Thank you.